Are you a little overwhelmed, feeling isolated, angry, frustrated, unacknowledged, or fearful? Do you find yourself wanting to retreat from the world? Then it's time to break down the barriers and say yes to yourself. Join me, Christine Clark, on Forging a Life to spark the ignition and put your life into drive. We'll cover how to ignite full circle success on your terms. You can forge through. Every episode, I share a life forging tip to spark your liberated, energized, and profoundly satisfying life. It has never been a question of, do you have what it takes? It is only, are you willing to try? Forging a Life is about you and our world, as each of us forge our unique destiny. We light the way for others, igniting world-healing transformation. Step into the work and make an effort. Trust yourself and the process of becoming. Forging a Life starts now. What is the story that you tell yourself? When you look back on your history, are you drawn to the triumphs, the love, the abundance? Or is your energy magnetically drawn to when you were wronged, the bad choices, lack, those dark struggles? What is your current narrative? Is it the song of growth, or is it the dirge of permanent scars? JoAnna Davis came from dysfunctionality, lived a life of addiction and sex work, and became a pastor, an author, and founder of Foundational Stones, providing transitional housing for women ex-offenders. Her life is a shining example of the story you tell yourself. Instead of self-recrimination, JoAnna pulls strength, passion, focus, and possibility from her life journey. She is a beacon, lifting up those around her and guiding women with complicated histories to their elevated life. I am Christine Clark. This is Forging a Life, igniting full circle success. My awesome guest today is JoAnna Davis, pastor, author, and CEO of Foundational Stones. JoAnna, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here with me today.
Well, I feel very privileged and honored to be a part of Forging a Life with you. And I'm just really excited to share what I can to help others. And again, it's an honor. And I thank you, Christine, for allowing me to be a part of this.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I'm delighted to have you here today. You just opened this month your second Foundational Stones house. So tell us about that, and just kind of give us a current peek of what life is for you right now.
Well, we did. We just recently opened up our second transitional home for sober living for women coming out of prison. There's a facility here in Des Moines, kind of like a halfway house, along with we accept women coming out of drug treatment. And that house has been truly a blessing to many women. It houses up to 11 women versus the first home that we have, and that holds 5 women. And so we've really been working through the nicks and the crannies and just trying to figure out what works best. We have had great success with the first home. And so we knew that there was a need for a second home. And by the grace of God and the leading of just having just great support to get that done. Currently, the home has 8 women in there, and we still have 3 beds to fill. And matter of fact, I'm going to be doing some interviewing at the prison next week to try to fill those beds. And so, yeah, it's definitely made a change in the lives of women. We did just recently do our open house for the second home, and we've just had great testimonies. Of course, you know, there are those that come and it's not always a fit for them because we are faith-based. And so they kind of know within the first couple of weeks if it's for them. But other than that, it's definitely been a journey, and it's it's been very uplifting, and I'm super excited about it.
Wonderful. You said with the first home, 5 beds, that you had great success. Tell us, tell us a success story, or yeah, just tell us about that, because everybody's got to start somewhere. You want to do provide this, bring uplift to women, need to create a framework for them to come in and then get back into society. So what's the desired outcome? And just share, some of the successes that some of the women that come through have found.
Well, I can say that a great success story. We started the Foundational Stones in 2019, towards the end of 2019. And we've had, I was doing a little bit of background, we've had about 42 women come through there.
Wow.
Since 2019. And we've had, like I said, we've had great success stories. One off of the top of my head, young lady, she came in 21, and she stayed through the completion of the program and graduated, and she's now living in her own apartment. She's a manager of a grocery store. She's remained clean and sober. She does come back periodically and share her story with some of the women. And so we still have a great relationship. I think part of what I love about Foundational Stones is we see that women need, just even after they graduate, they need support. And what they find in Foundational Stones is that it's not just a program, it's family. And right. So we build family with them, and they know that it's lasting. It's not just, a come in, get clean, get sober, get the programming, and then go on with your life. I mean, they can do that, of course, but I think they see that it's not just a program. It is truly family. It's a community of Christians, believers that love on them, help them, support them. And, they see that as a bonus for their lives, because, most of the women come in and they've been, abused by family or bruised by family, or they don't have family, and right. And maybe they burn bridges with family. And so they know that, there's hope with building those relationships with those that are a part of Foundational Stones. I will say that another part of the success story with Foundational Stones is that with the new home that we just started, 2 of the women that were in the previous home are now the house manager and house liaison. So part of that success is that they graduated, they remained clean and sober, and now they are a help to Foundational Stones by serving and giving back and helping other women, paving the way for other women to see that, where you start is not where you got to finish, is not where you have to finish. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is beautiful, Joanna. Thank you for sharing that with us. For you, what are your goals, life and work goals in relationship to foundational stones, but also in other segments of your life? So what are your work life goals?
Well, for me, I think I finally got to a place in my life that my greatest joy is to see someone else's lives transformed.
Yeah.
I don't want to get emotional on you, but my goal is to give back and to help others see that, where you start is not where you have to finish. And I am totally committed to the lives of people and helping them change and helping them see their greatness and helping them see that, there's hope, that there's purpose, and that there's even purpose in the pain. And in the pain
Yes.
is it doesn't have to be negative. It's learning about that pain and how can you take that pain and it be beneficial for you, and how can you work through that so that it works out for your good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the huge pieces. I hear that you're doing some coaching with those ladies, because I'm thinking I do that a lot with people. It's the story that we tell ourselves, and what is the story? Are you pulling out the not this happened to me, but look, I'm still standing. I
Absolutely.
can move forward, and gaining resiliency and strength for that. That is absolutely beautiful. And I love that there's a little bit of emotion for you. That tells me that you're doing work that is deeply meaningful, that is fulfilling to you personally as you serve and guide these women. Um, what
I
would
love them. And, even when they don't always make the right choice to stay, I always leave the door open. I'm never the type of person that closes the door on someone.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for me, because of where I come from, that I didn't succeed the first time. I didn't succeed the second time. There was many times that I had to um, learn from the last mistake in order to get to the next step to where I
Right.
needed to go.
Yeah.
And so I believe in always keeping the door open. And I never take things personal, because I know that um, when I was in my journey, a lot of things that I chose to do, and I knew that um, my struggle was not because I was a bad person or wanted to do bad things. I was struggling, and I didn't know. And so a lot of times when I'm dealing with women or dealing with those that come through foundational stones, I I definitely walk with a heart of forgiveness. That is just I'm made that way. I'm created that way, and I always try to give that back. Give that grace, give that mercy, give a time to let them know that the door's open.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't
Right.
make it the first time, but
I, yeah. And I love what you said, that as we go through these lives, we keep hitting the obstacles.
yes,
And sometimes the right opportunity is there in front of us, and we say, no, that's not for me. For whatever reason, we choose something else. And then you run around that track and you end up back in the same place, and like, oops, okay. Um,
yeah,
but the part is at some point being able to realize that separating the choice and the experience from who you are. And I guess my thought is that that wasn't an awareness that you had immediately, that you came or just figured that out at some point on the journey, to realize that the choices you made and the experiences you were having were not did not have to define you, that you were separate from that. This is my experience, but this doesn't have to be who I am.
absolutely.
Um, yeah,
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 absolutely. I knew that that my choices was not um, that it didn't define me. It was me forgiving myself.
Right.
Finding that forgiveness for myself and then picking up the pieces of my life and realizing that even the pieces that were broken were still valuable.
Oh, that is so good. We're gonna go to our first break, and
Okay.
we're gonna pick that up as soon as we come back. This
Okay.
is Forging a Life. I am your host, Christine Clark. You can find me at forgingalife.com. My guest today is JoAnna Davis, originator of founding Transitional Stones, and you can connect with JoAnna on Facebook. Coming up, encounters with the Lord, both on and off drugs, and we'll have your life forging tip. So please stay tuned. Welcome back. I am your host, Christine Clark. This is Forging a Life, and my guest today is JoAnna Davis, the originator, founder of Foundational Stones, a transitional housing for women ex-offenders. JoAnna has great heart and is very connected to her work, and she was just telling us that she's apologizing, get a little emotional. I says, no, go for it. I love tears. That's let us know that it's very, very real. And all of us could benefit from having work that we are in and fulfilled by heart and soul. JoAnna, you grew up in a dysfunctional family, like millions and millions of people. Would you be willing to share just a little bit of your background?
Sure. Well, I grew up in a single parent home, of course. My mother worked a lot, and my father, he was an alcoholic, so he wasn't in my life. He didn't. I think, to be fair, I just don't think he was ready to be a father. My mother was married to him, but that was short. That was a short-lived relationship. And I spent a lot of time with my grandmother because my mother worked a lot. And when my mother was home, she was, I don't think that she was very happy with her life. And she spent a lot of time doing a lot of screaming and yelling and, very hurtful words. A true statement, I believe, was, I hungered for my father's love and I didn't understand my mother's.
Yeah.
And it was very confusing. So I found myself being a child that was identified by my family as a rebellious child, a troubled child. But really, I was just a broken child. And I think it would be fair to say in the 70s, parents at that time raising children, they thought that I needed more therapy and all that stuff. But the truth was, based on the fact that they thought that I was just being rebellious or being, defiant. But I was just truly, truly broken. By the time I got teased a lot in school because we didn't have a lot of money. And so I had to wear like my cousin's hand-me-down clothing, which was boy clothing and things of that nature. So I really suffered from my identity, trying to really, see myself as just a person. I looked for attention, and it was always in the wrong way. I became a runaway. I would run away from home. I became very promiscuous by the time I was 13, and to find out later in life, I think I became that way because I did go through being molested as a child by family members, a couple different cousins. I eventually met an older guy and was pregnant by the time I was 14. And I had my first child at 15. He was very abusive. So I suffered from abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse um, from him. And eventually had my second child at 16. Um, then I just really suffered a lot from depression, and I didn't know my identity. I was always looking for love in all the wrong places. I eventually one day suffered from what I know now that I had a mental breakdown, and I left my children at home by themselves. And my children were taken from me by the Department of Human Services, um, to later have my children placed back with my abuser. And he was able to get custody of my children. And little did I know at the time, the abuse was really caused from him being a drug user. And I didn't know that because I was very young. He was about 9 years older than me. So you can imagine being 14, 15, and he was an older guy. And he was, basically respected because he was in the military and all that stuff. And so
That's
I,
yeah, that's a lot, JoAnna.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to my story. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to tell you all of it on this show,
Yeah.
but to,
So, where did that lead to? And then what was a turning point for you?
sure. So by the time I was 18, my kids were taken from me. I wanted to be with my children. So I ended up marrying him. And day of the wedding, he beat me pretty bad. And I probably stayed around for about 3 months. And then I couldn't take it anymore. So I walked away from him. I walked away from my children. I went into adult entertainment. I became a stripper, and didn't realize that for the next 17 years, I was going to live a life of hell. And I had another child at 21, and was able to keep her for the most part until I got into drugs. And then I got in deeply into drugs, crack cocaine, became highly addicted to the drug, spent many, 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 many years getting high. I ended up losing my daughter to this. Well, my daughter was removed from me by the department, and think by the grace of God, I was able to get her back. I did 12 treatment centers trying to get clean and sober. And I had many, many encounters of God. But the one that speaks the loudest to me was one night I experienced an encounter with God that later on found out that the Lord really showed me that it was Him, and it was Him trying to save my life. And it was from that moment that I realized God was with me, and that He was trying to show me that He had plans for my life, and that He hadn't given up on me.
Right.
Um,
And,
so,
and that's hugely powerful, hugely powerful. Um, there is the personal piece of most of us have a story of not being worthy. And to hear your experiences and know just what you went through, um, and to have the experience of connection with your creator um, while in that place. It's like that is beautiful and really difficult because you have to believe that that you're worthy. I mean,
Yes.
and to be able to see that you are a person of value and that despite what life has been, um, you are called. That's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing and huge. Um, I
Well,
think
I
it's
can tell you, after I've had several encounters, but there's been some that really just it did a whirlwind in my life, and it made me realize that my pain had purpose, and that God was going to use it, and that even though I may have thought that life was over, um, life was really just beginning for me.
wow. How
And
how old were you when you had that significant um, epiphany, visitation, conversation with your
I
creator?
was, oh, let's see, I think I was 32.
Okay.
I was like 32 years old. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, but I fully stepped into my calling when I was 34.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Which is to me normal and because we can see the future, we can be given a vision, we can have the call, and yet it's never instantaneous. It's, it takes
sure.
time to fully step in. Um, I want to dive into that just a little bit deeper,
Sure.
and we're really close to a break, so. I think what I'd like to do is we're going to just go ahead and take our second break. And when we come back, let's look at uh, what the transition looks like.
Sure. Can do that.
Once you believe, you still got to frickin' do the work, right?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Once you have that vision and you know where you're going, you still have to do the
Absolutely.
work.
We
Yeah.
can definitely do that, Christine.
That's awesome. Right. So, yeah, this is Forging a Life. I am your host, Christine Clark, and you can find me on forgingallife.com. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube at Coach Christine Clark. My guest today is JoAnna Davis, originator of Foundational Stones. Her email is foundationalstonesdsm@gmail.com. And that stands for Des Moines, Iowa. That's where Joanne is, where her homes are, where she's working significantly with women. Follow her on Facebook at JoAnna Davis. And the most important thing in understanding about your past, what is that? And what is your life forging tip? We'll have those when we come back, so stick around. This is Forging a Life, and I am your host, Christine Clark. My guest today is JoAnna Davis, the founder of Foundational Stones, a transitional house empowering women coming out of incarceration. And we were just talking about Joanne's personal story of the lives that she led and then her calling to step into something to be more than what she was, and in a point in her life where she might not have believed that. And what we know, and what I know as a coach, is when you have the vision, when you have the epiphany, when you have the awareness, that's where everything starts. So you know now that it can be different going forward, or you see that what you want to have, do, be. But then the work starts. Then you still have to do the journey. You still have to walk the path, and it is never straight. It is never clean. If you see a paved road in front of you, I trust me, that is not your path, because it takes more than that. There are lessons for us to learn as we move forward to claim our destiny. So, JoAnna, as you move forward, what for you was one of the most significant things that you had to either do or believe in order to really make these huge transitions in your life?
Well, for me, when I eventually made the decision that, well, I had one last encounter that really kind of spoke to me. It was a woman. She came to me. She said, "JoAnna, um, you don't know who you are." And I said, "Well, yeah, I do. I'm JoAnna Davis." And she said, "No, you don't know who you are." She said, "Have you ever asked him?" I said, "Asked who?" And her response was, "Have you ever asked God who you are?" And a light bulb went off. And I was like, wow, no, I really haven't. And so I remember it's so vivid still to this day. I went into my room and I got down on my knees and I remember saying, "Hey, God, who am I? What is this?" And I had an encounter again with him and his presence in the room. And I got up from my knees that day and I realized that there was so much more to me. And I had to first begin by building my relationship with him and then finding that peace within myself to forgive myself for all of the choices I had made. And it took time. It wasn't something that happened instantly.
Right.
It was years of walking in a grace that only I could get from God. And so I had ups and downs, not necessarily going back to drugs and alcohol and sex and all that, but I had ups and downs in my relationship with God. One minute I was mad, one minute I was happy, one minute I was sad, one minute I was joyful. Right. And then one minute I was screaming at God and I'm like, why? And right. Then him showing me that everything that I was walking through was a matter of my heart. And I needed him to show me how to give him my full heart. And I did. And when I did, and like I said, it was years. It wasn't something that happened instantly. Because once I gave my all to him, then I had to learn to be obedient. I had to learn to be consistent. I had to learn to hold myself accountable. I had to learn to change the way I spoke and how I viewed life. And the most important thing was getting God's perspective. How does God see it? What does he say about it? And then walk it. And so I did. I eventually got that, and I knew that I had another encounter, and he said, "You're going to be a pastor," and me and him had this conversation. I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." I'm like, right. No, that's not my calling. I'm like, Lord, I'm okay with just being a little evangelist for my church and the church that I was attending at the time. And the Lord was like, no, I'm calling you to help set the captives free. And so I
When
eventually,
did, yeah, when did the idea or the thought or that, to create the space for women that had walked the walk you'd been through and to
sure.
start supporting them in their journey forward? So when did that come about?
So when I got clean and sober, I believe it was 2005, 2006. I remember telling the Lord, I want to teach women about you, Lord. I want them to experience you because you're the reason why I'm clean and sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to, so he gave me a vision to get a house and put them in there and teach them biblical principle. So I believe that um, that journey started when I had such crazy faith that I would call real estate agents, real estate companies, I mean, and say, hey, I want to see that house over there. And I would go in the house and I'd look around the house and I didn't have a penny to my name, Christine. I mean, not enough to buy a house, of course. And they would say, oh, well, do you like the house? And I'd say, yeah. They're like, well, let's start the paperwork. And I was like, we'll have to think about it. I'm not really quite sure. So that was roughly around 2005, 2006. And I always knew I was going to do that. Like it always was in my spirit to do that. And when I started pastoring, I would write down blueprints of what I wanted, and I started writing a curriculum for it. And even though I didn't have the house yet, and then one day I was at work because I worked for the state, and I was a child protective worker for children, for families, and I went down the wrong street, and I I I remember having a dream about a yellow house. And so anyway, I was going to a fam. Sorry, I sounded like I kind of went all over the place there, but I was going to do a visit for one of my families, and I went down the wrong street. And as I went down the wrong street, there was a yellow house for sale, and immediately the dream came back to me.
Right.
And I said, that's the house in my dream. And I called them. And roughly about 30 days later, I owned that home. I went and got it. It was in 2019. And that's when the journey started for Foundational Stones.
Right, right. I love that your vision continued, that you had the idea, and that even though it wasn't there as fruition for from 2005 to 2019, you were planning the curriculum, you were designing the house, your thoughts were always there. And that's huge, because as we vision and think and plan for, we can call to us what it is that we want. It never happens on the time frame we want. It's always longer, but it does happen. It does happen. So I want to kind of back up and go in a different direction just briefly. You know, what do you see as the impact of mass incarceration, through the war on drugs? Because there are so many people that are scooped up and put into a system that when they, when rehab or community or something could have been the answer rather than having a record. And you're working with women coming out of that system to give them a real true start, which I see you as one of the many, 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 many people that are doing the stopgap work. But what are your thoughts on that? If you're willing to
Well,
share. Yeah.
yeah, I think from my opinion, limited opinion about mass incarceration is, of course, we do have so many people incarcerated due to substance abuse, and have committed some type of crime because of their drug abuse. I do believe our communities are lacking um, sound um, programming. Um, they make it they make it almost harder or impossible for people to get the help. Um, and a lot of what I've come across is, and I know that this is something that I believe that maybe other people don't, but I think it's hard to do a program and make it a cookie cutter because everybody's not gonna fit in the mold, right?
Yeah.
And so for foundational stones, we have a basic foundation, but we also allow them to have mentors that understand them. So they're not just getting just a flat program, they're also receiving mentorship of people, women, other women that can relate to them and walk with them through the process.
Yeah. I want to just keep going with this, Joanna, we're gonna stop. We're gonna skip the last break so we can just roll with this
Okay.
because I love what you said about there doesn't seem to be community systems, programs in place to deal with people coming out. And because they really are put behind the eight ball. You have a non-violent conviction for drug use or possession, and when you come out, you can't vote, you can't get food, housing assistance, you can't get food stamps, you can't because you have this felony conviction, and it's like, and then the idea is we are all still individuals. Our stories are similar in this piece, but we're all also very different. And I love that you've got this mentoring program where you match people with somebody who they can relate to, um, whether it's, you know, ethnic background or, similar journey or similar life experience, whatever it is. And I think that that is really, really important. And you're right. It's any other program, any other system put in, especially if it's run by a government agency, that it is so sterile to bring people in and you're going to do X, Y, Z. And people need to have support. People need to know that there's community that believe in them, that want something best for them, that really want them to thrive, to make it, to stay out, and it just seems like there's so much.
It's kind of like with our programming, again, that's why it's called foundational stones, because we
Mhm.
know that we all believe that there is no other foundation than the foundation of Jesus Christ. And so we build from that. We teach them, this is the foundation. If you start here, we can help build you up. And so that's the first thing. I do believe that we don't have enough programs that are invested to really show people that you really do care. Like, it's not just a program, but it's real people with real problems needing to know the real answers, right? So
Right. Mm-hmm.
we try to let them know that, first of all, when you come in here, both houses have a big picture on the wall, and all it says is family. So when they walk in, that's what they see. They walk in,
mm-hmm.
Our greeting to them is welcome home.
Beautiful.
Not welcome to the program, but welcome.
Right. Welcome home. Yeah, it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe.
Yeah.
And you still do all the brass tacks pieces within that, right?
Yeah, and we're very intentional about it, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know that part of my story, because of where I come from, the streets, drugs, alcohol, sex, and all that, I could tell fake from fake. So I knew when somebody was real with me. And people know when you're just part of the system, you're getting a paycheck. People know. People that come from those backgrounds know when you're real. They know when the love is real, when the work is real, when someone is truly invested in their lives.
Yeah.
And
you're not the parole officer. You're the family. You're the people that embrace them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna love them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our motto. We love people where they're at until God gets them to where He needs them to be.
Absolutely.
We don't.
Absolutely.
Our goal is not to leave you behind. Our goal is to bring you with us. And if you want to go, you can go. And so that's how we work with them. Again, when we talk about that mass incarceration, I do believe that we don't have enough programming out there that has that model, has that approach. And then we find that, they can go in there for 28 days and get clean and sober, but then where do they go after that? Like,
right.
What are you going to give them after that? And a lot of people feel hopeless once they leave those places. And they're kind of thrown back out to the wolves. And then that's why we have that repetitive incarceration where people are just going, it's like a revolving door. They go in,
right,
they go
absolutely.
out, they go out.
Yeah.
We're trying to stop the recidivism by providing a more home environment. Christine, the truth is I get tired. But I don't get to a place where I'm willing to give up on somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's part of the work that you do, part of the bounce back. I want to give the audience, they're waiting for their life forging tip. I want to make sure we slide that in and then ask you what your message is for the people out there. Today we are talking about phenomenal power and great work being done by someone with a very complicated history.
Sure.
What you achieve in life has roots in your past. Here's your life forging tip. Absolutely every experience lived is preparation for what's next. You can do anything that you desire when you pull the hero narrative from all that you go through. Light, love, and winds inspire the beauty to strive for. The horrendous events and seasons of life prepare us to claim the dream. You and only you get to choose the narrative of your past, present, and future. Claim the fortitude, wisdom, growth that living is rich with. You may have felt like crap getting out of bed this morning, but you got out of bed. Put that fuel in your fire and run on it. And if you feel challenged in finding the positive solution and resolution in your life, I can get you there. Let's talk. Free yourself with a no obligation coaching session. It's time and you are so worth it. We have just 2 minutes left. JoAnna, give us really quick what your message is to the world or to your women.
My message is there is purpose in your pain. And where you begin is not where you have to end. You pick up the pieces of your life and you find that they're valuable. And they're valuable to be put back together and to show someone else that even broken pieces can be put back together.
Beautiful. Thank you, JoAnna.
Absolutely.
Your life is a heroic tale. Your story that you tell yourself may be one of empowerment or defeat. Your entire life experience has been processing, shaping you. Bring you to the place with this knowledge, the skill set, the spirit to have and be and do anything that you desire. This is your empowerment foundation, and let's build on it together. Connect with JoAnna Davis on Facebook or email her at foundationalstonesdsm@gmail.com. Claim your hero story with Christine Clark at forginalife.com. Find me at Christine Clark on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You have been listening to Forging a Life with me, Christine Clark, igniting full circle success. Tune in every second and fourth Tuesday at 9 a.m. on Transformation Talk Radio for more life-forging tips to spark your liberated, energized, and profoundly satisfying life. As each of us forge our unique destiny, we light the way for others, igniting world-healing transformation. It's never been a question of, do you have what it takes? It's only, are you willing to try? Schedule a complimentary personal clarity session. Visit forginalife.com. That's forginalife.com.